Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today, I have a king not only representing the state of Washington, but also the state of Tennessee. Garth Ward is co-founder and managing partner at Park Place, brokered by EXP Realty. Garth is a distinguished figure in the world of luxury real estate. With over a decade of experience as a designated broker, Garth has set the gold standard in the industry. Specializing in serving the elite clientele, Garth leads a team of 140 plus real estate agents. They're committed to delivering unparalleled results. His expertise encompasses a wide spectrum, from being a buyer's agent and a luxury listing agent to providing top-tier relocation services and expert consulting. Garth's track record speaks volumes, having helped countless first-time home buyers find their dream homes all the way to handling transactions over $20 million and plus. His finesse in advising on development projects for new construction homes is unparalleled. A connoisseur of property analysis, Garth ensures that every clientele's investment yields the utmost returns. His dedication to customer service is unwavering, ensuring a seamless transition for clients into their new homes or investments. As the forefront of Park Place, brokered by EXP Realty, Garth Ward offers an exceptional experience in the world of luxury real estate. When you choose Garth as your partner, you're not merely engaging a team, you're securing a direct access to Garth's personal attention and expertise. He is just a phone call away. Embark on a journey to the pinnacle of luxury real estate with Garth Ward and Park Place. Everyone, please give it up for Garth.
Hey guys, it's a pleasure to be here today. I'm excited to get into all the topics you're looking to talk about. Like you said, I've kind of been in the business for a long time. I've kind of done the gambit of this industry, and I've trained hundreds of agents across the country at this point to be multi-six-figure earners. And I'm excited to get into whatever topics you have in store for us.
Of course, man. What year did you get into the real estate, Garth?
So I got into the business in 2013 when I was 19 years old, and I knew I was going to get into the business when I was 12 years old. When was that? Oh my goodness. Like in 2006 or so is when I knew I was going to become an agent.
It's hilarious. Did you have a mentor coming into the industry, or did you do it everything on your own?
Well, I started the business with absolutely nothing and no mentor or anything. In fact, I didn't, when I first got my license and I passed my test, I went to the only office that I knew. And it was just like around the corner from this apartment that I was living in and sleeping on the couch with my parents. And I found out when I walked in, I was like, hey, I'm just got my license. And they're like, okay, cool. Well, we're a property management company. I was like, oh, that's not what I want to do. So then I looked stuff up and I found out, okay, there's like a career night that Keller Williams is holding. Let me go check that out. And I went to Keller Williams's career night, and I had all these people kind of clamoring to try to get me to join their teams and all this other stuff. And I was not really feeling the vibe. And so I kind of just took a step back for a little bit. And at the time I was like, I was very poor. And so I was going to Costco for lunch because hot dogs at the time, $1.64. So I was going to grab a hot dog for lunch, and I was going up this hill because it was a little bit of a slope. And this lady comes pushing her cart down the hill. It has tons of flowers in it, and then she hits a pothole and the flowers go everywhere. So I go over there and I help her and I take the flowers and we walk over. She opens up the trunk and boom, real estate signs. And we get to talking a little bit, and it turns out she was the top producer at a large regional firm in Washington State called John L. Scott. She was the #1 producer at that location. And she said, hey, you need to meet my managing broker. I think you'd be a great fit. And so she ended up helping me at least through my first couple transactions. And then Michael Ford became my first kind of like business mentor in the field.
Nice. Do you remember how you got your first client? And how did you get into horizontal and vertical development construction? How did you get your first luxury client?
Okay. Yeah. Let's see. First client was a couple months in. It was a Saturday morning at 7 a.m. in the morning, and I was at the office. And I basically lived at the office when I started because I had to make business happen. I had to get a deal in 4 months or I was going to be homeless. So for me, it was necessary that I win. And so I was at the office making cold calls on cancels and expired first thing on a Saturday morning in the office. And I ended up getting a hold of this nice lady who was trying to sell her home. And I said, hey, I'd love to help you. She said, great. When would you want to stop by? And I was like, in an hour? She's like, that's fine for me. I'll be there in an hour. So I jet over there and then I do everything on this property. I mean, I did electrical work. I did landscaping. I moved literally probably 700 pounds of brick. I did like contractors work effectively. I can't say that it was literally contractors work, but I did a lot of manual labor. And then I marketed the property, sold it in about 27 days or so. And I sold it at $207,000. Today, that's probably worth like $500,000. Yeah, I sold it fairly quickly. And then the rest was history. As far as how I got my first luxury sale, that's, I guess, what do you count as luxury? Because there's different levels to that game. That's a hard one. What would you count as luxury?
I don't know, your first the first million plus listing, I guess.
Okay. So my first $1 million deal was in Seattle, and I had made the transition from a local regional brokerage. I got headhunted to a luxury firm that was just being created that later got sold to Compass, and I helped them grow to $1 billion company. But when I had just joined, I got mentored by the top 6 of the top 20 agents in all of Washington State. And I was still really young at the time. I was 21. No, I was just 22. I just turned 22 when that happened. And so I was the first agent that they hired. And I was getting mentored by all 6 of these top 20 agents in the state who had formed this brokerage. And I basically said, at that time I was already doing a lot of business, and that's why they wanted me. They're like, you're young, you're doing a lot of business. We can help you just explode. And I said, okay, great. And even though I was doing a lot of business, I came to them hat in hand saying, I will do anything, put me in any position, give me the grunt work. I want to learn how to do the high quality stuff, because I came from nothing. I had no idea what high quality anything was, right? Like I was still in H&M suits that I got for $100 that I got tailored at Nordstrom so they at least looked good on me, right? And so I go there, and eventually I've just put in so much grunt work that one of these agents said, hey, I've got this deal. I want you to run all of my leads that come through this one system. And I said, great, I'm going to run them. And so about a week in, I got this opportunity to sell a home over in Denny Blaine. At the listing appointment, saw how he did his listing appointments and everything. And then from there, we won the listing and then sold it in about 5 days for cash at like 1-1. And this was back in 2015. Yeah. So this was back in 2015. And that was the first $1 million sale that I got. And it was crazy because the second $1 million sale that I got was from the #1 agent in all of Washington State. She had a listing that was a condo in Seattle that I asked her to hold an open house at. And she said, sure. And at this point, I've kind of built a reputation of being a high quality open house agent and training hundreds of agents on how to do open houses effectively and efficiently and to properly convert clients, because that's what I did to grow my entire business. And so I was like, hey, let me hold this condo open. I think it's a cool looking one. Let me do that. And she said, sure, have at it. So then I went there. I talked to all these buyers that were coming in and everything. And it was a very unique situation because I put it on like I was the listing agent. I spent money on this thing, right? Like it was a whole event that I hosted. And I had people that were from across the Lake Washington who actually lived in Sammamish come there just because they just wanted to come and see what was going on. And it turned out that they wanted to sell their home in Sammamish. And I said, okay, that sounds great. And because I still wanted to learn, I actually asked that agent, her name is Terry Foster. I said, hey, Terry, can you come to this listing appointment with me? This is just under $2 million. It's the first time I've done something like this. Could I have handled it myself? Yes, I could have. But I wanted to see how she did her process. So I said, hey, for me, it's much more valuable to go and hand her $30,000 than it is for me to get an extra $30,000. I'd much rather know this agent, the top agent's process and how they win. Right. And so then I said, okay, great. Let's partner on this deal. I'd love to do that. So I got to see her whole process. We put that on the market, ended up selling at about 1.7 million, not long after the first one that I had got under over in Seattle. It was probably like 2 months later.
Nice. Yo, all right. Let's see here. How did you get into the horizontal and vertical development of construction then?
Yeah. Okay. And this comes back to building relationships with these people, right? When I had the opportunity to have longer sit down conversations with Terry and some of these other people that ran Avenue, I learned that a lot of them got major traction when they got into the new development field, right? If you look at like how she built a big track record, she built a big presence in new development at first, and that spurred on the luxury sales later. And so I said, that's an interesting perspective. But the other thing that I noted was her new development sales that built her track record were not in the downtown core. They were slightly outside of it, but it didn't matter because that big presence led her to doing those deals anyways. So I said, what can I do outside of the downtown core of Seattle that allows me to build that sort of presence that has less agents going after this type of business? And ultimately, there aren't a lot of agents that go after new development and new construction business. And so what I did is I consistently and every single day spent about an hour or 2 hours learning everything about the development process, and then delving into municipalities, coding of municipalities, the breakdowns of how structures were set up, and the breakdowns of costs versus the land, the analysis of land valuations, and all those different metrics that are involved. And ultimately, there's like a few different ways you can get access to new development. But how I got my first plat was actually it was a cold call. There was a plat of just 6 homes. They were between $650,000 and $950,000 for those 6 homes, and none of them had sold. They were on the market with the previous agent before. But they weren't all finished. Like one house was finished almost, and they expired and canceled, and it had been a couple months. And I saw it, and I said, this is interesting. Let me call. So I called up the guy who was, connected to the LLC that was on the tax record. And so I delved in deep to find who that was. And then he says, oh, actually, we're just about to hire this other guy. He's been in the business doing new development for 40 years. We're going to go with him. He's the highest quality person, blah, blah, blah. I said, no, that's totally fine. I totally get that. So I got a question, just like, how do you run your projects? Who operates it? How does it operate? And he goes, like, I run the development. I got a money guy who runs the funds of stuff, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, so you kind of run it as a JV. And he goes, yeah, kind of. I mean, the other guy just runs the money. I run the development process. And I said, okay, well, that's interesting. Who's the money guy? That's always interesting to know. Maybe I have an opportunity for us later. And he goes, oh, it's this guy. His name's Alan. And I said, oh, okay, great. Thanks. You have a good day. Click. Then what I did is I looked up Alan. And what I did at that point is I found out where Alan worked. He owned a accounting business. And when I found out that he owned an accounting business, I said, okay, great. I know where he works. I'm going to get a massive basket with cheeses and meats and wines and other stuff. I mean, it was like a $300 basket. If you ever seen those, they're freaking crazy. So what I did is I just built together a quick presentation, drove to the guy's office with this massive basket, my business partner, and we sat in the lobby and said, hey, we'd like to talk to Alan. She's like, do you have an appointment? Nope, not at all. Okay, well, he's really busy today. No worries, we'll be here. And I just sat in his office for about 3 hours until he walks out and says, hey, you're here for me? I'm like, yeah, I'm here to talk to you. My name's Garth. Love to talk to you if you have a couple minutes. You have some time? By the way, I got you a great basket. He's like, sure. We hop into his office and I said, here's the deal. You need an agent that's going to do high quality work for you, better marketing, better branding, better advertising, and you need a plat brand. You need a builder brand. You need a builder website. None of these things have been done previously, and no other representation is going to get it done for you. So what I want to do is build out an entire brand for your plat, a brand for you as a builder, a website for the plat, and I want to overhaul all the marketing, get video quality done, and I want everything staged properly. And I have an entire marketing plan that I'm going to dial in for you guys. And he said, okay, that sounds awesome. Just give me a second. On the spot, he calls up Tony. He says, hey, Tony. He's like, yeah. He's like, you know how we were going to work with Doug? And he goes, yeah. I'm assuming he says yeah or whatever on the other side. And he goes, we're not going to work with him. We're gonna hire these guys right here. They're in my office. It's Garth and Austin here, and we're going to meet them at the plat here soon. And he goes, oh, okay. And he's like, hey, when do you want to meet? And I said, how quickly do you want to get these on the market? He's like, in about a week or two. I said, great. How about we meet in 2 days? He said, okay. I was like, I'll have a whole marketing plan and everything dialed in for you. He's like, okay, great. We'll meet at the plat. And so then for the next 2 days, I spent 2 days building out a brand for the builder, a whole name, a brand, everything for the builder themselves, because they didn't exist. It was just some random LLC. Then I built an entire brand for the plat itself. And I also drew inspiration from the Money Guys business. So the Money Guys business already had a fleur-de-lis design. So I made sure to incorporate the fleur-de-lis design in the plat of the neighborhood because I knew he would already like that. So we built out the whole entire marketing plan, met them a couple days later, even got the brand that we built superimposed with vinyl onto hard hats and everything dialed in within 2 days, brought it to the property, pitched it, and then boom, we won it on the spot, got the 6. From the 6, we ended up selling a few pretty quickly because we did it properly. And then they gave us access to another 12 and another like 4 one-offs that they were working and operating. And that was like the first one that I did.
Oh, dude, that story literally shows the genius in you. You literally are a student of the game. You literally just you made it a no-brainer for them. You literally paid attention to the smallest details. Like, you are a genius. I'll give you that. Like, what's Park Place's mission statement? And then do you see it change in the next 5 or 10 years?
I don't know that we have a mission statement. I just know that we want to have, high quality people, with high integrity levels, always doing the highest quality work, regardless of price point, regardless of area, regardless of state, city, doesn't matter. We want our agents and us to always fulfill the highest quality need for any client that exists. And that's it. And by doing those simple things consistently, we've seen expansion continually. And so I don't see that changing in any way. Does the way that we operate it change? Yes. I mean, so we owned a brokerage before, right? And so we weren't always a team. When we were at Avenue, what ended up happening there is the last year that I was there, I had sold just under $70 million in volume that year. And I was getting a lot of agents that wanted to learn from me in Austin. They were like, how are you guys 23 years old and selling $70 million of sales? And again, this was in 2017. So today that would be like 125 million. And so, they were like, how do you do this? And at that time we had just closed, a deal for 21.7 million. And people were just like, what are you doing? How are you doing it? We want everybody wants to go work for you or work with you somehow. And so we were like falling into kind of running a team and operating a team. And I think the way that teams are structured is kind of broken today. And because they're broken, because think about it this way, the brokerage is taking money. Most brokerages have a servicing fee or a franchise fee. Then I'm going to come in and take a team fee, and then there's a transaction fee, and then there's your E&O and your taxes and everything else, and anybody on a team gets screwed. That's just what it is. And so over time, I just couldn't, it was a very short period of time too. It was like a few months, and we built to a few new agents that were joining us, and we had even more that wanted to join. And I was like, this just doesn't seem fair to the agents. But at the same time, people weren't coming for the company at that point. They were coming for us. And so I said, there needs to be a better way to do this. And I was already in conversations with trying to franchise that brokerage, at least some small conversations. But then I caught wind that they were likely going to sell. They didn't say that, but they asked for potential errors and omissions claims to all the agents. And I realized that they were getting a valuation for their brokerage. And based on that understanding, I just said, hey, I'm going to actually just Austin, let's go move the brokerage to our own. So what we did in 2018 was I planted my own brokerage, named it Park Place, and day one, in fact, the anniversary of that was yesterday, August 1st, 2018. We said, hey, we're starting a brokerage. Boom, we got all like 60 or 70 listings ported over. Nobody said that we were not going to work with us, even though we were making our own brokerage. And at that point, we said, hey, we're going to hold an event today, and any agent is invited. We rented out a coffee shop, a big local coffee shop, and we got food, we got drinks, we got stuff. We're going to explain everything we're going to do. Everybody come. We ended up having lots of people RSVP and stuff like that. And then when we prepped the place, we were pretty, I don't know, zealous. We had actually printed off our agent contracts and we left them on the tables just right there for people to sign on the spot. And it turns out we ended up getting 10 agents day one on the spot from our little event announcing what we were doing and how we were doing it. And what's crazy is a lot of those agents we helped a lot. You know, we helped an agent get out of $90,000 worth of debt who'd never closed a deal. We helped an agent stop from leaving the business who'd been at Keller Williams for 2 years and never closed a transaction, but then came to work with us, made 450,000 year one, made 600 year two, right? And so we ended up changing a lot of lives doing that. But so we ended up starting the brokerage in 2018. And then every year we were adding a new location. So we actually ended up at the end of it with 4 locations, 137 agents, CEOs, assistants, admins, managers in each location, everything dialed in. But when we were looking at expansion, we realized that we didn't want to have a few hundred agents. We wanted to have thousands of agents because we felt that that would be a bigger impact. So we were looking at expansion across the country and where we would place future locations. And so while looking into other locations and other places to place locations, we were trying to identify market centers that had reasonable properties, a good trajectory for investment growth, but also had bad marketing by agents and didn't have a kind of system of luxury firms in that market center. And so we identified about 6 different areas. We went to those areas, we evaluated them, we vetted them, we found a couple that we were going to place new locations in. In fact, I'm sitting in one of those locations that we were going to place a branch. But ultimately, when we were delving into all of the requirements to place firms in new states and new locations with different MLSs, with different licenses, there's so much different things that go on with the licensing of brokerage models. We just realized how long it would take and how much capital we would have to lead with and all just the pain of what that would be. And we just evaluated it. And, we were looking at it and thinking, I'm not sure how we want to go about expansion. And so we were looking at the licensing model, the franchising model. We did realize we didn't really want to go too deep into that. And we ended up getting some offers to sell the brokerage. We ended up having some pretty lucrative offers. And they were going to be in the 7-figure ranges. And I can't say from who, but they're still looking. But we ended up turning those down and folding in the brokerage into EXP's model and taking no money because of the structure that it is. When we delved into the actual financing structure, the compensation structure, the revenue share structure, and the ability to grow with other people, that drastically changes the metrics of how things work with less liability, less legal risk, and everything else, less compliance drag, and just way less operational drag. So we ended up folding into EXP. And then through the course of the last year, because I did that about a year ago, in the last year, we've added agents in about 30 more states. And we have, we've added on average over 12 agents every month since we joined EXP. In fact, we ended up adding 3 whole brokerages already as well with us. A brokerage in Las Vegas with 30 agents came to work with us, Brian Nisley and Better Life. Cobblestone Realty in Chicago with 12 agents, came to join us as well. Now they have 22 not long after. Philip Perriott and the Perriott Partners came to join in LA. So he merged in his whole brokerage as well. And, you know, anybody that's owning a small independent boutique real estate shop, you know, if you actually do the math and you actually break down the profitability versus your time versus the expansion structure of what you can do, the math speaks for itself and the model speaks for itself. So ultimately we landed over here after evaluating every single metric and every single option that was out there. And that wasn't just, we picked EXP arbitrarily. It was, we broke down everything from EXP to Real to Epic, LPT. We broke down Side. We broke down other franchise structures. We broke down every single thing that was out there in the market center because we were turning down, for us, a lot of money. And so if we were going to do that, we needed to make the right decision and the right play. And so we landed over here. And now I think it's been a pretty good scenario so far.
No, I totally believe you did your due diligence. Are your principles when you did when everyone knew your 5-star user experience from open houses? That's the same model still get applied to everywhere that gets open, or do you do like a collaborative where you have evolved it a little bit more since?
How do you mean for open houses?
Like, remember how you said you were giving like a 5-star user experience? Do those same principles still get applied to everybody you bring onto the team, or has it evolved? Have you collaborated a little bit more with other people?
Yeah, I mean, so open houses, the way that I train open houses is twofold. There's 2 separate strategies that I train. One is based on farming and based on like a kind of more of a traditional mega open house, bring in like a chef, bring in like an event feel to the situation. But I don't suggest agents do that arbitrarily to try to get clients. I was doing that when I was younger and more naive. But at the same time, I dialed that in over time after hundreds of split tests. And so I only use that for my own listings and listings in areas that I'm trying to specifically curate business and farm. Outside of those scenarios, I'm doing my open house strategy, which is drastically different. That's holding 8 open houses in a weekend, all for 1.5 hour periods of time, 4 on a Saturday, 4 on a Sunday. You start it at 9. So you open a house at 9 to 10:30. You open a house at 11 to 12:30. And then the next one at 1 to 2:30. And then the last one at 3 to 4:30 on a Saturday and a Sunday. All 8 of them are different open houses, ideally vacant, high quality marketing, recent to the market. And also you want to make sure that if they're close in geographic area, that they're also similar in price points. Ideally, it's in middle class-ish price points. You don't want to try doing this at really high price points. It's not going to work or be as effective. But if you're able to do all of that, you're going to learn more floor plans more quickly. You're going to learn price points. You're going to learn neighborhoods quicker. You're going to get more toe to toe with clients. And ultimately, it's about consumer behavior. Consumers are going to see when the open house is online. They're going to show up when it says to show up online. And they don't, even though we have a culture in real estate for some reason that agents hold opens from like somewhere between noon to 5 range, that doesn't mean that consumers know that. And they also don't care. And they have different schedules. So they might want to show up at a totally different time. And the reality is this, we all know that buyers work with 87% of the time, the first agent that's competent that they speak with. So if I'm holding an open house on a Saturday morning at 9, and they will come to my open house, how much more likely is it that I'm the first person that they speak with? A lot more likely, right? And the same thing with my with the one that I'm holding at 10 at 11. Right. And so, and then at the same side of the coin is if you're not the first agent they want to talk to, you want to be the last one. So the last open house ends at 4:30 when every other agent ends at 3 or 4. So that means they can put me at the tail end of their tour. And I'm still at least the last agent that they're going to have a conversation with too that day. And so alongside all of that, if they're looking at multiple properties at similar price points in the same geographic area, they're also going to run into me more than once, making it an even easier decision to make. Hey, we keep seeing you everywhere. Great. Why aren't we working together already? It becomes a very easy conversation to move down the funnel.
No, 1000%. You literally have this down to a science.
Well, I think that every single aspect of our business can be put into a system and put into a process that's more effective and more efficient than most agents do it, which is why why most agents don't have the success that they want and why agents always act like there's a roller coaster. And I think the other reason why agents don't get enough repeat and referral business, because when somebody refers somebody to you, they're actually not doing it for you, right? If you refer me a client, you're not referring me the client for me. You're referring them for you, and you want to look good that you referred something good. I'll give you an example. If you go to a restaurant and it's amazing, you're going to tell your friend about it, right? But you're not going to tell your friend about it if you think it was great, but maybe somebody else might not like it. You're not going to tell them then, right? Like, oh, this is maybe specific, or maybe I just like this. You're not going to go tell them about it. But if I say, this is the process, this is the system, this is the structure to every single transaction and every single client that I work with, then you have a sense that it doesn't matter who I am. It's always going to be handled with this level of care, with this structure, with this process. If that's the case, you're more likely to send me referrals because you know this process that referral is going to go through. It's not arbitrary. It's not fly by night. It's not like it could be this way or it could be that way. I'll give you an example that's kind of a hot topic right now, which is commissions. For example, I talk to a lot of agents and they'll say, well, I'm just going to say these aren't like people or specific things, but you talk to an agent, they'll say, well, I charge 6%. They'll just say that, right? Okay, great. And they have that conversation in the listing appointment. And then a seller might arbitrarily say to them, well, would you do it for 5? We have another person that'll do it for 5. And then that agent would go, sure, I'll do it for 5 if you hire me. And then they hire them. Well, to me, that's disingenuous. If you were going to charge them 5, or you could have charged them 6, why would you not just charge them 5 in the first place? And if you do that for one person, are you going to just arbitrarily charge the next person that they refer you to 6%? But if they ask you for 5, you'll give them 5? How does that make sense? It doesn't make sense. So for me, it's very simple. I created packages and structures to the commission breakdowns. If you want different services, different marketing, and different advertising, those come at different prices. It's that simple. So if you want me to do it for less money, that's fine. I'm happy to do it for less money. It's this package. You get a little bit less marketing and advertising. But then it makes sense why I'm dropping the value. I'm not dropping arbitrarily because I can be cheaper. I'm doing less marketing. I'm doing less advertising. I'm doing less branding. I'm doing less whatever. But then it's correlated and it makes sense. And that's repeatable and replicatable to all future clients. It's not some arbitrary random thing that I give somebody and not somebody else, which could also put agents sometimes in trouble. Because what if you do it for one person and not the next person? And the next person's maybe in some sort of protected class today, and now you get sued. I don't know, but nobody, I don't think, even thinks about that. But to me, it's very easy. These are the packages. This is the structure. Like, you want me to be the cheapest thing? I can be. Usually not, but I could be. And then if you want me to be the most expensive thing, I can. I can roll out the red carpet. I can go charge you 10% if you want, right? And so it just depends.
No, I love it. You literally make everything a no-brainer for the consumer. What do you think is the most misunderstood thing about you, your industry, or your work, would you say?
Okay, so I'll start. Okay, me first. Misunderstood about me. So a couple things. Number one, a lot of people think that somehow I grew up with money because now I do pretty well. But I didn't. I grew up as a foster kid. I slept on a couch my whole life until I was got my first commission check. I bought a bed with my first commission check from that expired call. I was actually paying to help support our apartment when I was really young, while I was even in school. And then when I went into real estate, I'd saved up money to survive for those few months so we could continue to stay in that place. And so I didn't come from anything. So that's a misconception that happens a lot because I'm young, and people say, oh, with that type of pedigree, maybe your parents were in it. Maybe, somehow you had some sort of a leg up or some sort of an in into the industry. And that just could be further from the truth. And then the other one is that somehow I'm like pretentious or, think I'm better than other people or something like that. And that also couldn't be further from the truth. I know that might come across in some of my branding because of, I've had a lot of cars, but that's just because I have a love for cars, watches, and fashion and stuff like that. It's not that I'm actively trying to portray something. It's just what I like. And, I was fortunate enough to have some of those things. And so, I guess for me, it's that I'm a lot more humble than people think. And it just might not come across that way online because of the way that online kind of projects. But so that's me. Then you said me, and then what else in the industry?
Your industry or your work?
Okay. So in real estate, I think there's a misconception about the business as a whole that that all agents are the same. That's number one. They absolutely are not. That all companies are the same. They absolutely are not. And that all people should be agents. And this one's a little bit more controversial. I know a lot of people want to say everybody could be a real estate agent. Anybody can do it. All personalities are a good fit for it. And you know what? If I'm going to be completely honest, I've trained hundreds and hundreds of agents. No, they aren't. They are not. It is not the business for everybody. Not everybody should own a business. It's a very difficult business. Let's face it. Look at the statistics last year in 2023. The 48% of the agents did 0 to 1 transaction. 0 to 1. It's my personal opinion that all of those agents don't need to be agents. Why are they agents? Like what, for the tax write-off? Go get a random LLC and pretend that you sell merch or something. There's no different. But what you're doing is you're oversaturating a marketplace and making the marketplace feel less professional than it could be. Because there's no way that you can actually competently represent clients selling one home a year. Not that if you're new and you're only selling a home that you can't go do a good job. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that if you've been in the business for 10 years, 7 years, 6 years, and you're selling one home and you're acting like to the next client that you can give them the best advice on valuating their home and giving them market analysis and all of the different things that are required, I'm going to call BS. I got my BS alarm kind of blinking and firing off. How can you be more adept than them? Like, let's face it. I know clients that are literally not even agents that'll buy and sell a couple houses every couple of years. You're not doing more business than some people without licenses. So how are you going to advise them better than themselves? It doesn't make any sense to me. And so I don't know. I think that's a major misconception. And then ultimately, you know, it's a lot harder than people think. You know, people watch the TV shows and they just see the big numbers come on, like, oh, here's a commission check. Look at this big commission check. You know, I've done a lot of business, I think, and I've gotten some ridiculous commission checks, and I even asked for it to come in as a check because I wanted to see a check like that. But what I can say is that's just not the reality of most of this business. The reality is the average agent deal is like $350,000, $400,000 across the country. And then the average commission rate across that is like 2.6, 2.7%. And when you break that down and take out splits and take out fees and take out taxes, the average agent's actually making somewhere around $4,000 per transaction that they put together. And if we extrapolate that to the fact that the average agent only sells 4 to 7 homes, the average agent's making between $4,000 and $42,000 a year in net take-home pay. And all these agents go around on social media acting like, I make all this money. I made 80,000. I made 100,000. Yeah, freaking gross. Who cares about your gross? Nobody wants to talk about the fact that 100,000 gross, take out your office fees, which was 20,000, take out the transaction fees, which were 10,000, take out the marketing expenses, take out your taxes, and you actually made 40. You could have worked at McDonald's. And so it's one of those things that it's nothing against agents that are doing that. Absolutely go after your dreams. Absolutely try to grow. But there's a misconception that agents get overpaid, because absolutely do not. And you'll notice some agents do get paid a lot more money. And the reason they get paid more money is because they have systems, processes, track records. They actually produce the results. And because our industry is so tied with results, that's why some people get compensated a lot more, because they bring a lot more results. It's that simple. If you're an amazing agent, if that's just true, you're going to have transactions. If you're not performing, it's probably because you're not as good of an agent as you think. And this is just like a really tough pill for people to swallow, but it's true. Like, and I've talked to agents and they'll say, I'm doing business, but I'm not doing the business that I want. I'm selling like 6 homes a year. Okay, great. Let's pull up your listings. You pull up their listings and it looks like they did their marketing with like a flip phone from 2009. And you're like, well, why do you think that you're not doing enough business? And they're like, well, I don't know. I'm like, well, how much money do you spend on a listing? And they're like, I don't know. I spend a couple $100s. It's like, well, there's your problem. You're not willing to spend the money and the marketing and advertising required to set you apart, to differentiate you from the market center, right? If I come in and I sell a house, you're spending thousands of dollars on proper photography. You're spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars on 3D tours. You're spending thousands of dollars on videography, staging, props, all the different things that are required to properly do something. And if the other agents aren't doing that, why do you think you're going to compete? It just doesn't make sense to me, right? Like if two things are equal and one thing's going to get you way more stuff, way more marketing, way more advertising, way more discoverability, why would somebody hire you when you're going to use your flip phone? Like, I don't.
Nah, it makes total sense, Garth. It makes total sense. If there was one other thing you could change about the industry, what would it be and why?
What would I change? I would probably change two things. The big thing is I would make it drastically more difficult to be an agent.
Okay.
Make it way more difficult. 90 hours in an online test is not enough. It's not enough. And in fact, the training and the classes don't even go over contracts. They don't go over how to do the procedure of the deal. They go over lending. They go over title. They go over all sorts of arbitrary ethics. They do not go over how to actually do real estate, which makes absolutely no sense to me. So that's number one. And we should make it like 3 times as difficult. Like, we should not have like it be the random fallback career for people that do not know what to do with their lives. That's like, it's almost a trope at this point. I don't know what to do. I don't know. I'll just go get a real estate license. I'll figure that out. Like, somehow that your backup plan should be to sell $1 million homes and multi 6-figure assets for people with their biggest life savings, that you should take that as a freaking hobby. I take that seriously. Right. And people out here just think, oh, I'll just arbitrarily go do this. It's like, and you can, that's fine. But if you don't treat it like it's your money, like it's your savings, like it's your livelihood, how are you ever going to do the best job that you can? Which is why I have so much gray hairs at 31. And it's because I treat every single deal like that's my money. That's my asset. If I don't do it great, who is? Right. That's why they bring me on. They don't bring me on to do some, like, I'll sell it for you. Anybody can sell it for you. Anybody. They can sell it themselves. People, I think, sometimes forget that. Right. And if they go sell it themselves, like, how am I bringing extra value? I want to make sure that I bring more value than what they were going to do. A lot more value. Right. I'll give you a quick example. This is a really small one. But like, I just put a deal together. It's a really small deal, $235,000 deal. And, originally the seller was saying he was getting offers from investors in the low 200s. And I said, well, honestly, that's about what it's probably worth to an investor. That's true. But, and I could bring you an investor too that'll do the same thing. But if that's the case, don't hire me. Just sell it to the investors. Don't pay me. Just sell it to them. That's fine. But here's what I suggest. We put it on the market. I find an end user for you, and we make you more money. So we do the math backwards, right? Instead of netting like 200, he'll net another like $18,000, $19,000 at the end of the day because he worked with me. And that's after my fee, right? And that's a big deal for people. And anyway, but back to what I would change. So I'd make it a lot more difficult, and I would have made these changes to the decoupling of the commission structures a lot earlier. I think that it's a smart move for the industry. And I also am going to be very excited to start seeing invoicing on agents. I think that some agents should work on an invoice structure. I think they should. I think that we're going to start seeing a decoupling of agents that do complete and exclusive access to their representation on the buyer side now. And I think we're going to have a lot of agents that just become door openers that get paid like $50, $100 to open a door. And that's fine. And that's probably better for them. It would probably be better for the industry as well. So
you are literally a maverick. You're like a trailblazer in this industry, I would say. Just switching gears a little bit.
Yeah.
If you could have dinner with any historical figure, who would it be and why?
Historical figure and dinner. Roger Bannister.
Yeah. What's the story behind that?
So Roger Bannister He was the first man to break the 4-minute mile. And here's what's interesting about that. People said that that would kill humans, that it was impossible physically. But he said, no, I can make it happen. And in fact, he didn't know that he could make it happen. He had a coach, he had a trainer, he had somebody who saw raw talent, who saw quickness, who saw bad running form and said, I can mold you. And through rigorous training, years of training, and a team to support him doing it. He had a team helping him run this mile because they were running with him. They were giving him a draft the whole time so they could cut down wind resistance and increase the flow behind him. The whole time he had somebody helping with the pacing structure. He had a whole team behind him to set something we thought was humanly impossible. And then right after that, this is what's insane. It never happened. Right after he does it, within a couple weeks, it was broken 6 more times. To me, meeting somebody that can have that kind of impact to drastically change and alter the perception of what humans' capabilities are and has that type of determination and will and grit to make it happen and to coordinate with a team and to be able to be coached for that long and be that dedicated would be a person I'd be lucky to meet.
Not power to you. No, you're totally right on that.
Plus added benefits. I've always wanted to break a 4-minute mile. I was trying to when I was young. I couldn't quite get there. I was 7 seconds off, but
geez, you really have a tenacity of just go doing the most outrageous goal. You really set outrageous goals and somehow you manifest. You make it somehow, some way, you pull it off.
But that's kind of the thing, right? And like to this day, like I've gotten slower because I'm old and I got some bad knees and stuff. But to this day, I'll still wake up really early in the morning and I'm running long distances every single morning almost. And I do that to stay in shape, stay mentally sharp, get rid of all the anxieties of the world. And the thing is I think if you're working in business, you actually need that. Because when we have fight or flight responses, when anything negative happens, we're just sitting at a desk and we're dealing with an issue and then we're dealing with another issue and dealing with another issue and dealing with another issue. Our body's putting these poisons and these toxins into ourselves. And if we're not physically active after that, we will feel worse. We will have higher anxiety. And so for me, when you go through all these difficult things, and right now, I moved to Tennessee and I started doing sales 4 months ago. And right now I'm working on 20 transactions here. And it seems like almost every single one of these transactions is going sideways somehow, some way. Might break, might fall apart. This one might have an issue. This one has an issue. And it's absolutely insane. And I haven't had it happen in a long time. I've never seen a market like this. But because of that, I find myself actually sometimes going on 2 runs a day. Because if you don't, you will not be able to maintain a level head. You will not be able to be rational throughout the course of all of your interactions. And you should be able to open every door and come in with your best. And what I find is if I'm working all day and I don't do that, which I've done, right? I'm not perfect. I'll not go work out and I won't do something and it will, right? And then I'll find out when I'm done working, I'll go to go hang out with my kids and my wife, and I will not bring my A game. I will not. I will be a garbage husband. I will not be a good enough father. I won't be attentive enough to those kids. And I realize that if I can make sure that my physical and mental state are dialed in, I can always be present for not just my clients, but my family and my friends when they need me to. And so for me, that's really important.
And do you think that's the key to maintaining a work-life balance, or what do you think is really the key to maintaining work-life balance? How do you apply it in your life?
So I think that's a tricky question. Personally, I think if you're starting, at least in real estate, or if you're going to be a business owner, I think trying to achieve work-life balance is a hoax and you shouldn't even try it. I think it's a lie. I think it's a myth. What people don't understand is they look at me now and they say, you kind of have work-life balance, but they don't understand what it looks like. So I'll break it down. But when I started, I was working 120 plus hours a week. I woke up every morning and I was at the office by 6. I wasn't leaving the office till about 7. Sometimes I slept in the office and I was working into the next day. Over and over and over again for months. months and months and months and months, more than a year, I was doing that type of a schedule. And once I got that schedule dialed in and I was doing business and I was getting somewhat of traction, I mean, sure, I dialed it back a little bit for sanity purposes and I was working 80 hours a week. No balance at all there. No balance whatsoever. I was still working every day. And in fact, when I was selling 80 mil, 70, just shy of $70 million in volume that year, I was working every day. I was still waking up at 4 a.m. to work, to drop off papers and pamphlets and go door knock. I was knocking on doors, but I was dropping off stuff at people's doorsteps. I was doing stuff all day, every day, all the time. And then when I started my brokerage, it was the same thing. It was like starting a whole other business. So I was doing it all over again. And in fact, the one time, and this is what's absolutely insane, the one time, it was a decade into this business, a decade. I'd owned the brokerage for 3 years. We built it to multiple offices. At that point, I was close to have sold $1 billion in real estate at that point. And now I've done about 1.1. But at that point, I was close to $1 billion sold. I was like 29 years old. I was running a brokerage. I was doing all these things. I had a wife. She was pregnant. And guess what? I started working probably 50 hours a week and I bought some nice things. I had a nice house. I had probably too many nice cars at the time. And you know what happened when I did that? And I slightly took the pedal off the gas. I had people look at me and act like I was lazy. I had agents not tell me to my face, but they told other people that I didn't work hard enough. I wasn't putting in the type of work that they expected of me, that I shouldn't have had those nice things, that I should have blah, 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 that I was flashy, that I was somehow overcharging people or doing something else or whatever. And it's like, you haven't looked at the 10 years that I put in for hundreds of hours of weeks. So I could literally work more than a full-time job time-wise still at that point. Anyway, so then I moved over here and I spent the last year rebuilding a group and an organization. Now we sit just under a couple hundred people across the country. And then I started doing sales here in Tennessee, all while doing that, while running an organization. And we have a tech arm where I sell websites and stuff. But alongside all of that, I was, I have 2 kids, right? Within that, right? I've got a 2.5 and a 1.5-year-old. And so that was during a move across the country. And I'm still doing business in Washington. I'm doing business here. And I'm trying to organize all these groups and do trainings and all that other stuff. Alongside all that, I rebuilt a sales business here in Tennessee from nothing. I don't have any friends, no family, no coworker. Like, I don't know the neighborhoods. I don't know anything, right? But within 4 months, I've already closed like 5 transactions and I have 20 pending or listed right now. And that's from a standstill. And so anybody can reduplicate this if they put in the right work and they use the right roadmap. Even the people that I personally train, and I do offer personal training. In fact, I have one slot. I have one slot available right now for personal coaching that I do one-on-one with agents. Like, it's an hour a week. So I do that with agents as well. Hour a week where I break down everything at their personal businesses and I help them through their transactions and I actually help them guide them through the conversations and stuff like that. But even those agents, some of them are amazing. Obviously, I'm going to only say good things about my students, but I'll tell them, hey, do this. This is what I did it, and this is how I do it. No matter who it is, whether they're in my group, my organization, my company, my students, they never really follow it. And then they wonder why they don't have the same results. It's like, well, when I say do 8 open houses a weekend, I don't mean do 4. When I say do 8, I don't mean do 3. When I say do 8, I mean do 8 and do it this way, do it with this structure, do it with these times, do it specifically and do it consistently. Every person that has actually done that for more than 2 months has actually closed deals from it. Every single person that I know that has done that has closed deals and gotten clients from it just doing it for 2 months. I've never met an agent that hasn't, except for one, and I told him to leave the business. And it wasn't something that was mean, right? It wasn't just that activity. It was all activities weren't working for this agent. No activity would work. And I think it was just, sometimes it's a personality thing. Sometimes it's how you communicate. Sometimes it's, it's just not, like I said before, it's just not the right fit for everybody. It's not the right business for everybody. But if this is the right business for you and you utilize the right roadmap and you utilize the right steps and you actually perform it consistently, there's no reason every single person shouldn't be selling at least a couple homes a month. 24 homes a month should be a benchmark for an average agent. It's what it should be.
24 a month?
Sorry, a year. 24 a month would be hard.
Yeah.
That's running an organization. You can't even do that individually. You can't. Like I'm doing that many right this second. That's not sustainable. I don't plan to do it sustainably. I mainly rebuilt the business here to prove that could do it again, right? That it wasn't a fluke, that it wasn't a different. It's like, oh, the market's changed, that the market's different than it was when you started. It's harder now. It's more saturated now. It's blah, blah, blah. And so I'm like, well, nobody knows me here. I don't know the neighborhoods. I don't know anything. I'm effectively new and I'm in this market too. Yeah, you could do it again. You know what? I might do it again. I might do it a third time. I might just go to a random market again and prove it again. And just to sell everybody like, look, this isn't a joke. Look, boom, boom, boom. I don't care where I go. It doesn't matter. It's the same thing. But I'm not sure if I'll do that, but yeah. So it's been a fun ride.
You're like Michael Jordan, literally. You're building a dynasty, literally a dynasty. And having your era. What's the most memorable success or failure, would you say?
I would say, so my most memorable success, business-wise, success in general would be my wife and kids. You can't beat that. Business is business. But business-wise would be the deal I did for $21.7 million. I did that deal when I was 23 years old. I'd never sold a deal over 2 million at the time. And what happened was I was walking a dog with Kayla, who I was engaged with at the time, near her mom's house. We were just walking a dog to the little dog park they had there. And it was a newer development community. And we were walking the dog and we're going to the dog park. And I see a guy walk out of one of the builds that was being built. And I was like, oh, hey, that's Charlie. I knew he was the owner of the buildings because I'd seen his picture. I was like, Charlie, hey, what's going on? And he goes, hey, okay, what's up? Right? He's like, who the heck are you? And I'm just like, he's like, how do you know me? I was like, hey, yeah, we just, mother-in-law just bought a house down the road. She bought one of the nice ones with the view. And he was like, oh, great. How you guys like it? I was like, yeah, like it, great. And he said, well, what's up? And I was like, well, hey, I just had a quick question. What are you doing with all the land up there? So this was split into phases. They had 72 homes that they were building, that he was building. He had D.R. Horton building that had finished building 82 homes right near it. And then there was this big piece of land that they were excavating and there was dirt going and all sorts of stuff. And I was like, what are you doing with the land up there? And he goes, I don't know. Might sell it. Might build it. Don't know. And I was like, fair enough. You have a good day. And that was my in. So here's what I did. I then had to find out everything about the plat. So this was a city called Edgewood. So what I did is I went to the city. I went and I got donuts and orange juice and milk and everything. And I brought it to the city. And I said, hey guys, I got you some refreshments. Can I get everything you have on Westridge Phase 2? They go, sure. Here's all the stuff. They broke it all down, gave me all the permits, all the breakdown of the plat. There's 138 homes to be built there. Breakdown of all the things. And I was like, okay, perfect. Now I just need to find who wants it. So I compile it as a package, put together a proposal package. Of course, I've never done commercial real estate. And effectively, this is almost commercial, or some people might call it commercial. It just depends. So I put it all together as a package. And then I say, who would want this that isn't D.R. Horton? And I said, I'm just going to shop it. I don't even have a listing. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to shop it to random people that would want it. Ended up sending it to somebody who couldn't take it on. It was too big for them. Then I ended up getting a hold of Richmond America Homes, or MDC Homes, right? Second biggest builder in the country. I got a hold of them and said, hey, would you be interested in buying this massive deal? And they're like, maybe. And I was like, I'll tell you about it if you sign this agreement that says that you'll work with me on it if you buy it. Cool. They sign it. This is how agents have to work today. So I did this on a $21 million deal. Like they can do that too. Of course, it was actually a $22.5 million deal at the time. So it's 22.5. And so we brought it to the table. They said, okay, cool. What should we price this at? Like, what do you think our end, like, what's our sellout going to look like? I'm like, what? They're like, well, we got 138 homes here. What are we going to build? What are we going to build in each spot? What can we sell those houses for? What do we earn at the end? And he was like, I'll call you in like 5 hours. I'm like, you want me to know what house you should build in all of these lots and then what it's going to sell for when it's done being built? For 138 different lots with different lot sizes, different orientations, different builds in each one. And you want to talk to me about it in 5 hours. So I did it. I put it together. I put it every single lot, what floor plan I would put for them, what it should sell for ultimately at the end, like what each lot width should fit in each spot, each da 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 da. Ultimately, I came up with this is what I said. I said the sellout price should be approximately $90,300,000 for your homes, approximately. And he goes, I had corporate working on this for the last 4 days. You gave me 5 hours, dude. Right? He's like, I had corporate working on this for the last 5 days with the team. They all know their freaking numbers better than me. He's like, they think that they'll be able to get 91.5 million. He's like, so you're kind of off. And I was like, hey, Mike. He's like, yeah. I was like, with all due respect, with 138 SKUs and a ton of variability and not knowing what floor plans you would want to put where, being off by 1% in a 4-hour period is not far off. Like, sorry, dude, that's not far off. But that also means that we're both pretty close. So let's break it down. We ultimately send in a letter of authorization, a letter of intent. And with that letter of intent, I found out that Charlie did have an agent, and the agent and Charlie were mad that I had shopped the property because they were like going to maybe bring it to the market in a very specific and deliberate way. Instead, I decided to just shop it to people and become the agent for the buyer. And they're like, what the heck? Da, 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 da. I was going to do it. Da, da, da. I was like, so what? We have a buyer. Let's work it. And so we went under contract at 22.5 million. My commission at the time was going to be 2% on the deal. Yeah, it was pretty good. I mean, no matter what you do, there's a cap to commissions. I mean, I know on TV they'll be like, "Well, I'm going to make $1 million on this deal." It's like, oh, no, you're not, dude. That's commercialism. In reality, like commissions kind of cap at like 500 grand. Like in reality, in real life, right? Because eventually people are like, how much are you doing? like what are we doing here? Right. And so, anyway, ultimately there was some undersurface soil issues and some feasibility issues back and forth. We were going to lose the deal over it was like $250,000 back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. So I ended up just saying, hey, I'll do a deal. I'll throw in a 0.5 point and become a facilitator instead of being the agent. So in other words, I won't be the agent. I won't have liability, but we'll still get a 1.5%.
Well, you really thought outside the box on that one.
And then that allowed them to move forward. We reduced the price a little bit. I threw a little bit in, closed the deal at 21.7. And then, so that was probably my biggest victory because it took 10 months and I was a child and I'd never done a deal over 2 million. And I just kind of pivoted all the way to like multiple 8-figure ranges. And it was way out of my depth at the time. And still made it work. So that'd be the best victory. The biggest loss is harder to say. I would say when I lost a plat, I had a new construction plat. One of the first ones that I ever got was 9 homes connected to another 23 homes that was being built that I was operating with Austin on. And the builder overbuilt the 9. They just made it too high quality. They were making it just too good for the area. And, I think the prices we had for them were kind of fair for what they were, but there just wasn't buyers for them, like it's just overpriced for the area, if that makes sense. And so it was taking us longer to find buyers for those houses. and we ended up getting dropped from that project after we'd sold a few of them. And so like that would probably be my biggest failure. I mean, there isn't much we can do about that, but ultimately they ended up selling for lower prices like we told them in the first place, just with a different agent. And you know, sometimes that's just how it goes. But or I would say working with Isaiah Thomas was pretty cool too.
Basketball player.
Yeah, you know, the Celtics guy.
Yep.
Yeah. He's one of my clients. That was a really cool opportunity to meet him and his family and find him their house and everything. So that was cool. Got to set a record-breaking property with his purchase, which was nice too.
You always go above and beyond. I'm not gonna lie to you. Now, what's the most challenging aspect of your role, would you say, in today's world?
Challenging. Knowing where to put my time for the most fulfillment.
Oh, fulfillment.
So I'll give you an example. Right now I take on, like I said, I take on students.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I don't charge them that much. Charge it's $1,000 a month. You get 4 hours with me, delving deep into your business, plus help with conversations and stuff like that throughout the week and stuff like that for only $1,000 a month. Honestly, that's not worth my time. Like if I break down my time into stuff, I could go get a deal for that every single month. Like 4 hours, I can go get a deal in 4 hours. Right? Like I can go get a deal in 4 hours. Then I can close the deal in another 4 hours. So if I can go do a deal for 8 to 12 hours, $3,000 is not going to be what I make on a deal. Right? And so I know I'm making less money, but it's more fulfilling because I can help them change their families' lives. So for me, it's also an equation of fulfillment, right? And so that's kind of where my question comes in, because sometimes I get to help families that really need it, and I spend more time. Now it's like I do things that I never would have before. You know, I spend way too much time dealing with a house at 270,000 because the guy's mentally losing it, and the daughter's trying to figure out power of attorney. So I'm helping them with like how to deal with spending down so that they can mitigate their losses through the insurance aspects of stuff. And I'm helping them go through how to connect the power of attorney and then do all these other things that are absolutely not my job, that I don't get paid for. But again, there's an element to this that's about fulfillment. I didn't get into real estate to make a lot of money initially. I just got into it because I thought that would be what I would be good at. And I figured when I looked it up, I was like, I could make 50 grand a year. I'm going to be balling, right? Like, that's what I thought. Like, I mean, I came from I thought like $1,000 was a lot. Right. And so, that was never really the intent. And so now it's kind of trying to find those things that I can do that still excite me, but also can somehow help people, if that makes sense.
No, 1,000%. You're changing the trajectories of human lives, and you're literally helping your client build generational wealth. Like I applaud you. I tip my hat off to you. I got 3 more questions for you. What's your favorite book, podcast, or article that's had a significant impact on your life or your work, would you say?
Book, article, or podcast? I would say it's oh my goodness, I can't even remember the name of it now that I found it in my head. It's like The Go-Getter. Are you familiar with that one?
No, I'm not actually.
So it's gosh, I think it's called The Go-Getter. And it's effectively about a salesperson who was not trying to be the closer. It was about the guy that came in, and his goal, he was outperforming these people that thought that they were amazing closers. And he was doing it because he was going and getting more opportunities. He wasn't as good of a closer, but he got more deals, closed more deals because he got more opportunities because of the way that he went around it and went about it. And I thought that was really an interesting book. I think another one's going to be one that's going to be really impactful for me is the one that I'm writing. So I haven't talked about that much publicly, but I am writing a book. It's called Path to Park Place. And it's going to be kind of a breakdown of a lot of the things that I've gone through today and kind of some of the behind the scenes of everything. So that people can utilize that in the future and maybe avoid some of the things that I did that wasted a lot of time. Because I could have done things a lot faster, a lot more efficient, a lot better than I did too. And I think that'll be an interesting one. Yeah. And then as an aside, I did take a lot of random nuggets from Million Dollar Listing New York. I learned a lot of little nuggets there, which is weird. But there actually is, those deals are real deals. They're not fake like a lot of the shows. Like they're actual deals that they're doing. And because of that, you can kind of see what's happening with the back and forth, how they handle it, how they handle those clients a little bit, how they handle their opens, how they handle events. There's little things you can glean. Obviously, it's a show. Obviously, there's fake drama and stuff like that. But outside of that, if you like kind of peel that onion, you can see actual glimmers of why they're high quality and high caliber agents, and kind of take some of those things and maybe utilize them. And I did that earlier on in my career.
No, thank you for sharing that. Do you think your book is one of the most courageous things you've done so far? And do you think that's the legacy you want to leave behind, or what other legacy do you want to leave behind? And what other courageous things have you done recently on you?
So I don't know if it's going to be that big of a deal, honestly, that I come out with one. I think some people will read it. I think they'll have a good time. I think if people do read it, they're going to, they're going to be able to kind of have a better understanding of what to do and how to go about the real estate business, and maybe how they would reframe and restructure their business and growth. But I don't think it's going to be monumentally earth shattering. My business story isn't unique. There's a lot of people that have had similar pathways to success as I have. Just work harder, do things different, create specific systems for those, and then do them consistently. I mean, it boils down to some small things, but I'm going to get into some interesting details. But for me, the legacy I want to leave is not actually about me at all. My legacy is actually going to be my kids. It's going to be impact in the foster care systems. It's going to be something drastically different. It won't even be real estate related, probably. Like I said, I was a foster kid, and I went through 13 families, and so for me, I want to drastically change the way that system operates and functions, and there's not enough people out there doing it. And in fact, before I had my boys, my wife and I were set to have foster kids. We were 99% of the way there. We just needed them to sign off on the final paperwork, and we were going to start helping kids and help foster kids and stuff like that. And ultimately, a few of the private agencies turned us down in the end, because they saw a YouTube video that I'd posted that was explaining issues with the foster care system. It was just explaining the issues, what it takes to get licensed, how you go through the process to get licensed, some of the major issues in the field. And they said that because I was being vocal about the process and the system, that they questioned my veracity and my capacity to keep the child's case a secret. And not only was that a slap in the face, it was a scathing indictment on Olive Crest.
Could you just sign an NDA with them?
Well, that's what you do. That's what you do. And they knew I was a foster kid before. So why in the world would I hurt the child's privacy like that? It was some of the worst criticism that I've ever heard said to me, was to say that I would potentially do something like that to a child. And moreover, because I had told the world about what the process of getting licensed to be a foster parent looked like, and what the adoption process looked like and how the adoption from foster care process was. That's what the video was. And they got mad about that. It's weird. It's like, is there some cagey thing that maybe people aren't supposed to know how this functions and how this works, so that maybe more eyeballs aren't on it, so that maybe it doesn't get fixed because somehow somebody's making money? I don't know, but I'm going to be trying to figure it out, and I'm going to be trying to change it a bit. And my hope is that through different organizations down the line that I create, that we can make a pretty positive impact on the way that things are actually done. And maybe it'll have to be done at the legislative level. Maybe the foundation that I create will primarily focus on lobbying and changing the actual structure of how things are done. But originally I thought it was going to be about helping the kids at the kid level, just giving them better supplies, giving them stuff, like having a facility, the place the parents can go to get like free stuff. But I think that that's not strong enough. I think we need legislative change to actually make the system function at a better capacity. And so that, alongside with I want my boys to grow up to be amazing members of society who contribute. I want them to be people that give back to the world as much as they can, but also I don't care what they do. I don't care what they do in their life. They can do anything as long as they go and try to be the best at it.
No, it's very touching. Literally, you almost give me goosebumps, to be honest with you. Do you wish you had received any piece of advice early in your career that could have changed your whole trajectory? What could have been a different catalyst to take off?
In the career, yes, I do. Actually, if I'm going to be 100% honest, and this is probably the first time I've ever said this ever, you guys are getting exclusive. I wish somebody had told me when I was earlier on in my career that I should have been selling commercial real estate, not residential.
Yeah, you would have crushed it.
I wish somebody had told me that earlier on, because I feel that I would have brought something new and unique to that space. And the deals are bigger, the money's bigger, the projects are bigger, but ultimately I have the systems, I have the procedural brain network, if that makes sense. Like the way I work makes sense for that space. And the fact that nobody kind of told me that earlier on is surprising, but I got a lot of fake and false information when I was first starting. I mean, I had people tell me that I shouldn't be a leader at Keller Williams. They said, you shouldn't be a leader. Your DISC score says that you can't be a leader. You should work at site sales and real estate. That's weird. I owned a brokerage and now I have hundreds of agents. So good thing your DISC is right. But I look at that and I'm like, I just look back at it and think, had somebody told me that I should have gotten into commercial, I probably would have had a drastically different trajectory in the field. I don't know how it would have gone, but I feel like having that advice might have changed some things for me, and it would have been obviously a completely different path. So that'd be maybe something that people should keep an eye out for too. So.
Nah, trust me. Everything you just told me, you have the creativity. You're literally a genius. Like, you go above and beyond. Like, and you always give. I love that you always give a full package. Like, and not just a full package, but you always over deliver. So yeah, I believe it. You could have took it to the next level. And then Garth, before I let you go, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm gonna rewatch all of these when I'm really old. Do you want to leave me any piece of life advice when I watch this when I'm old?
When you're old?
Yeah.
How old?
Like 80.
You're 80. Okay. You're 80. Don't spend your time traveling anymore. Spend your time with your kids and your grandkids as much as you possibly can. Because ultimately, when you're ready to pass, that's what you're going to remember. You're not going to remember Tahiti or Fiji or Italy. You're going to remember them. You're going to remember their smiles. You're going to remember what's important ultimately to the legacy that you've left the world. You're not going to care about those trips. So spend time with the family. And if you're going to go somewhere, take them so that you can change their mind and their experiences for those locations moving forward.
Dude, Dad, thank you for that. Thank you for that. Tell the people how they can get in contact with you. Give your phone number, give your email, and give them any last comments, thoughts, or anything.
Yeah. Cool. So yeah, you could always call me or text me. My number is 253-737-8018. You can email me at garth@parkplace.us. You can find me on Instagram at the Garth Ward. You can also find me on YouTube at the Garth Ward, which is, for weird reason or another, I don't have a lot of subs there. So go give me a sub there. And alongside all of that, if anybody's looking for any help in real estate, I'm always here to help and support. You don't always have to come work with me. I help support agents from all sorts of brokerages and stuff like that. I'm here to support and help you in any way that I can. And yeah, I appreciate it if you reach out. I don't know what you're looking for, but maybe I'll be able to help.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, you just heard from a king representing Washington, Tennessee. You guys should Google him. You're going to realize he's going to be playing in this industry for another 4 to 5 decades. Like, this guy, watch the next few cycles that happen in this economy and watch him just take market share after market share. And then, yeah, Garth, it's been a true pleasure and honor speaking with you today.
You too. I really appreciate it. I'm glad we've been able to hop on today. I look forward to seeing this when it comes out, and hopefully having a few people reach out to me and maybe helping them along their journeys too.
Hey, let's hope that's the manifest. Let's forget to the universe and manifest. Thank you for your time.
Appreciate it.
Stay on for 1 minute.